By calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.
And hello, K-Man, and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook under the key search word Straight Talk Radio Show. Also streaming live on the ACT Cruise Tourism page on Facebook and likewise on our own webpage, www.straighttalk.ky. I'm your host, Austin Harris. My colleague and co-host Ellio Solomon is on leave, but working diligently to bring you some new and exciting online content. And even today, though he is absent, we will be reading from his latest editorial. So you're going to want to stick around until after 5 o'clock to learn more about what Mr. Solomon has been writing about, putting pen to paper, or in this case, fingers to keyboard, demonstrating once again not only his strong command of the English language in the spoken word, but also in the written word as well. 34 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock is the time in studios for those of you keeping track. Undoubtedly about that time for traffic to start to get busy. And of course, there were a few raindrops later or earlier on this afternoon. There might be a chance for a few showers this evening. Don't know whether that's going to happen during the drive at 5 time or not. But there is always the possibility. The good news is, so far, we haven't heard about any accidents on the roadways. So whilst traffic is likely to be bumper to bumper as per usual, it won't be intensively bumper to bumper and added by additional friction and tie-ups. But as always, if you are on the road and you witness any traffic jams or traffic accidents or mishaps along the road, well, you can be our roving reporter and just shoot us a quick WhatsApp message using our WhatsApp number, 928-2562, and provide us with live, on-the-minute updates so that we can update some of your fellow motorists who might be a little further behind in the lineup. We do have hopefully a good discussion lined up for you today. No guests in studios expected. But it will be an open mic Tuesday. The phone lines are open and will remain open all the way until 6:30. The number to call, 745-2626, is the number in studios. If you feel like adding your voice to either A, keep me company, or B, perhaps introduce a question, a comment, a topic in which you wouldn't mind, us engaging in, then by all means, pick up the phone, 745-2626 is the number. As always, if talking isn't your thing, again, the WhatsApp number is 928-2562, and from there you can send us a traditional WhatsApp text message. It doesn't have to be about traffic. It can be about anything, or you can get creative and you can message us and send us an audio note, rather, at that number as well. They all go to the same place, me, and if they are received whilst we are on the air, then by all means we will add it to our conversation. Just a quick note and a reminder. All texts and otherwise audio notes received on WhatsApp remain anonymous unless otherwise stipulated by the sender. So there you go. A few good things in the good news category as we begin this evening. But first things first, a quick look at the weather since we were just sort of talking about it anyway. The forecast today called for decreasing winds and seas through today as a pressure gradient weakens in response to a stationary front that's located across southern Florida. Doppler radar images show a few showers in and around the Cayman area, all of which are moving towards the west to southwest. So that means we could probably expect partly cloudy conditions into this evening and also the wayward chance for a few drip drops. Again, not sure if that's going to fall whilst you're in traffic. My fingers are crossed that they won't, and it'll fall when you get home, encouraging you to have a good night. Taking a look further east, though, as we have been, the tropical wave that came off the coast of Africa on Sunday is now south of Cabo Verde and is expected to form in the coming days. Now, all the models, the American, the European, the Canadian, and the Icon model, have it forecast to become a hurricane. If you remember on Friday, only the American and European had it forecast on Friday to become a hurricane, whilst the Canadian and the Icon were still convinced it was just going to become a tropical storm and go no further. However, the question now still remains, with all in agreement that a hurricane is in the immediate future, the question still remains, where will it go? Now, there's a train of thought amongst the forecasters in all four of those spaghetti model forecasts that if it forms quickly, then it's likely to make a turn north into the wider and unpopulated Atlantic. However, if it lingers and takes a while to form, then it will continue a westward movement headed into the Caribbean region. The good news so far is that this storm poses no immediate threat to interest in the Cayman Islands, but we will continue, as usual, as we say, to keep a weather eye on the horizon and see what might develop. Turning to our forecast here at home, partly cloudy skies expected tonight. Temperatures expected to reach a low of 82 degrees. Winds will be light and variable. Sea state will be smooth with wave heights of fewer than 2 feet. And presently, outside Godfrey Nixon Way here at Stingray Media, it is a balmy 88 degrees Fahrenheit, high humidity, feeling a lot like 102 degrees Fahrenheit is the real feel. And again, partly cloudy skies this early evening, but this evening and into the later evening, the forecast calls for clear skies. So that's a quick look at your weather forecast for this Tuesday, the 2nd of September, brought to you mostly by the National Weather Service. 40 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock, giving us about 20 minutes before we have to go off to the top of the hour news. Just an opportunity to remind you what's coming up tomorrow here on the program. On Wednesday, we continue our Candidates Forum, Life After the Campaign Trail, as we continue to look and interview those candidates who were unsuccessful at the polls and sort of do a where are they now, what did they learn, maybe get a teaser if they plan on contesting again or their one-and-done experience was enough for them. But more importantly, which of course has been our objective, is to try to determine if those unsuccessful candidates have continued to be blackballed and finding it difficult to find employment, or if we can do our part to encourage the listening audience and particular employers to give them a shot in their chosen field. Tomorrow's guest will be the candidate who ran in the constituency of West Bay North. That is the constituency where, of course, the Honorable Education Minister and Finance Minister Ralston Anglin won. We will be chatting with Jermaine Ebanks Hurlston as our guest here on Straight Talk, and that conversation kicks off at 5 o'clock, just after the top of the hour news brought to you by the BBC. So if you live in West Bay, and in particular West Bay North, maybe you had a chance to attend some of Mr. Ebanks Hurlston's meetings during the campaign, you know what he's all about. If you didn't, well, we will reintroduce you to him and have a general chat in terms of his experience and also what lies ahead and what may be coming up next in his life. That conversation, again, continues tomorrow at 5 o'clock right here, only on Straight Talk on Bobo 103.1 FM. So as we like to do at the beginning of every show, before we get down to some of the critical discussions on issues that impact all of our lives, we like to focus first, if at all possible, on the good news of the day. And speaking of traffic, no better news is an announcement that a new portion of the east-west arterial extension is opening soon. Hopefully, over the course of the next 2 days, the road which connects Hearst Road to Agricola Drive will be open for public use on the 4th of September, according to the National Roads Authority, who have announced that a new section of the east-west arterial, which is called the East-West Agricola, is just days away from being opened. Drivers, particularly those who live in the eastern districts, east of The Hurley's roundabout and a bit further out will now be able to use the new stretch of road that runs between Hearst Road, Rex Crichton Boulevard Junction, and Agricola Drive just off of Shamrock Road. The east-west Agricola, according to the NRA, is the first phase of the much larger project to extend the east-west arterial eastwards. That phase was first opened to the public on a temporary basis during the agricultural show back in March. If you attended the ag show, then you will remember basically what that road looks like. At the time, it was chip and spray, so it was very much a construction zone. I believe they've improved the road surface since that time, but of course, we remind motorists that the road is still under construction, so manage your expectations accordingly. Interestingly enough, the name East-West Agricola has caused some confusion in the public realm. But according to the NRA, this is just the name of Phase 1, which is the first stretch, suggesting that it may very well be a temporary name for now. The NRA went on to state that the overall project is the East-West Arterial, and Agricola is just where the works are currently at. In terms of typical road construction, it is common to have different phases that open at separate times and having them named accordingly. The NRA representative explained to the Cayman Compass that project names often differ from the official road names, which can be a source of confusion. But really, again, what's in a name? I think whatever the road is going to be called is really immaterial to most motorists. The long-planned and controversial multi-phase east-west arterial highway expansion, when completed in its totality, is designed to eventually run from Hearst Road to Frank Sound Road, creating a second corridor between the eastern districts and Georgetown. Now, officials say that once completed, it will help to ease daily traffic jams, reduce travel times, support future public transportation lanes, and provide safer routes for pedestrians and cyclists alike. It is also being billed as a resilient alternative corridor designed to keep Grand Cayman connected when the coastal road is blocked by flooding, accidents, or storm damage. And again, if anybody, and now's a good time to be reminded of it, anybody remembers Hurricane Ivan, and the coastal road itself in many cases were impassable, particularly heading into Bodden Town, also getting further into East End. There were impassable routes closer to town along the South Sound coastal road. And from that time, obviously, the discussions really have been ongoing for the development of this inland corridor road. And as we know, nothing happens quickly with the government. But when the Agricola section opens, which again is expected to open on the 4th of September, so that will be by Thursday this week, the NRA is advising motorists that the new road remains an active construction zone. So that means, amongst other things, motorists are urged to reduce their speeds, to be patient as construction continues on what has been described as the island's most ambitious road project in recent memory. So good news if you live in the eastern districts. The East-West Agricola opens up on Thursday, and of course that road is continuing to expand ultimately into Frank Sound, and that will very much lend itself to easing traffic congestion. We are still likely to have some of the same bottlenecks the closer we get into town. I'm thinking most especially along the Hurley's roundabout and also perhaps there by, I guess, the King's roundabout leading on to the Linford Pearson Highway. But obviously the NRA continues to work diligently on multiple fronts. But, well, again, if you lived in Cayman longer than 5 minutes, you know that road construction does not happen quickly in the Cayman Islands. I don't know why that is. In some cases, particularly roads that are going through previous wetlands, they have to allow the marl that is placed to settle. Again, when you think about Cayman, most of the land, whether residential or now land that has been repurposed into roads, once started out as swamps or wetlands. So when you obviously fill in those swamps and wetlands, there's a degree of sinking that occurs, and that arguably is one of the reasons why we see roadworks oftentimes delayed in some instances, entire election cycles, as much as 4 years before new roads are completed. Obviously, this works well for incoming governments who like to take credit for the hard work of the previous administrations who started it. But nonetheless, a new road will be welcome news for motorists and persons who live in the eastern districts. And whilst it won't be the end-all, be-all, it will be an improvement. So that is why it is in today's good news category. Continuing with the good news from the roadways to the job market. Tuck in your shirt and come prepared. That's the advice government has for persons who will be attending the upcoming jobs fair. Again, taking a look at an article that appeared in today's Cayman Compass. Caymanians looking for a career in the tourism industry at the upcoming jobs fair have been told to come prepared to compete by government ministers. Speaking on Radio Cayman's For the Record program about the Tourism and Hospitality Open House event that will be held next week at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort, Deputy Premier, the Honorable Gary Ruddy, told job seekers, come prepared, pull up your pants, tuck in your shirt. This is your time to shine and show us that you are serious. I think that's sound advice coming from the Deputy Premier. And hopefully job seekers, Caymanians in particular, will heed this good advice. Appearing alongside the Deputy Premier was Minister for Caymanian Employment and Immigration, the Honorable Michael Miles, who echoed the Deputy Premier's sentiments, telling job seekers that they needed to turn up on time and to interact with people once they were there. He said, you're not there to hang out. You come there for employment, he said. That's what we want, and we will back you. But quite often, people are showing up to these job fairs simply just to hang out, maybe hand out resumes, network, and meet folks. But he and the Deputy Premier urge folks to come in there with the expectation that they're coming to compete for a job. And I think that's fantastic advice. It's sound advice, and it is the advice that everyone should take regardless of the job fair. It is not, a social event. You're there because you need or want a job, and you should come prepared for that. The event will be open to Caymanians, permanent residents with the right to work, Caymanian status holders, and residency and employment rights certificate holders. Organizers have allocated space for some 450 job seekers to attend. The two-day event will run on Monday, the 8th of September, that's next week, and Tuesday, the 9th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and will provide participants with insights into career opportunities within the tourism and hospitality sector. Hotel companies, including 1GT, that's the latest hotel to open up in downtown Georgetown, as well as the Grand Hyatt, that's the one taking shape next to the Wharf Restaurant, is expected to be in attendance, as well as other tourism companies such as Red Sail Sports. So if you are keen to getting into the tourism sector, and in particular in the stayover sector, I think it might be worth mentioning because the government seems committed to not developing the cruise sector any further than what exists already. We've heard hints from the Honorable Premier, Andre Ebanks, that he will be encouraging those Caymanians working in cruise to transition to stayover. So whilst I don't believe the two ministers mentioned it on their radio interview, I will say certainly if you are in the cruise sector, it can't hurt to come out next week, Monday and Tuesday, and see what's on offer. But again, take the recommendations, tuck in your shirt, come prepared to look for a job, and of course, get a job. And again, in this instance, you've got two ministers saying they're going to support you, they're going to back you, and they're continue to encourage employers in the hospitality space to hire Caymanians specifically. So you do your part, and hopefully our politicians and representatives will do their part. Great opportunity. Again, job fair next week, Monday and Tuesday, at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. The event opens at 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. daily. And speaking of job opportunities, one more positive news item. Not so much a job fair, not so much in the hospitality sector, but in the financial services sector, who oftentimes like to brag that they contribute over 50% to the island's GDP. Well, in an effort to support the advancements of Caymanians in the workforce, local and regional CIBC Caribbean executives met with the Minister for Caymanian Employment and Immigration, the Honorable Michael Miles. The CIBC executives included the bank's Chief Human Resources Officer, Janine Billy, Head of the Country for the Cayman Islands, Jamel Sobers, and Head of HR for Cayman and the British Virgin Islands, Cheryl Beckford. During her recent visit, Billy and members of the bank's local management team met with the minister to reaffirm the bank's commitment to workforce development. The bank has gone on record and pledged to offer internship and employment opportunities established in partnership with local providers, underscoring its dedication to empower Caymanians and fostering meaningful career pathways, it stated in a recent press release. Sobers also reaffirmed the bank's alignment with the government's, that's the National Coalition for Caymanian Government's national priorities, which, again, we've only heard it in veiled hints or teasers. We still wait for the strategic policy statement to be read out or to be set out in the September sitting of Parliament. But amongst the national priorities are to get Caymanians employed, and certainly in the words of the Honourable Deputy Premier, to return the tourism product to Caymanians. Minister Miles said our recruitment strategy for the Cayman Islands Mr. Sobers from the bank, said the bank's recruitment strategy for the Cayman Islands is closely aligned with the minister's vision. We are focused on cultivating a sustainable pipeline of Caymanian talent, reducing long-term dependence on work permits, and strengthening leadership development and succession planning within our organization. So hopefully those statements aren't just more glittering generalities, but hopefully the bank is willing to put some investment into some of their promises and create opportunities for Caymanian job placement in financial services. We can only take them on the value of their word and hope for the best. If it does come true, certainly I want to congratulate CIBC Caribbean and their executives for making this commitment to employ Caymanians at a variety of levels, which I think is also very positive for all of us. So that's the good news category for today. But I think at 57 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, I have time for one more. We were asked to make the following announcement of a family engagement, the power of positive parenting, an opportunity to learn valuable skills and strategies that revolve around the power of positive parenting, with a presentation by the Family Resource Center and the Department of Children and Family Services. This is what you can expect at an event scheduled for this Saturday, the 6th of September, just for 1 hour from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. That will be taking place at the West Bay Public Library. It will teach you such skills as monitoring your child's screen time, promoting children's self-esteem, and reducing their chances for negative behavior. Refreshments will be provided and made available on hand for those who attend. Again, that's next Saturday, the 6th of September from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the West Bay Public Library. This event is brought to you in collaboration with the Cayman Islands Public Library Service, the Family Resource Center, and the Department of Children and Family Services. So how about that? Those are your good news items for this Tuesday, and hopefully you have enjoyed it, and more importantly, you will take advantage of the opportunities that come available. It is 58, soon to be 59 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, and we do have to pause, take a short commercial break. But when we come back, speaking of Caymanians, there has been a video that has been circling on social media pretty much all day. I'm sure I won't be the first one to take a bite at the apple, but I will continue to raise some concerns about that video, which I'll play and we'll hear when Straight Talk returns on Bobo FM.
Bobo.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world. Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. There have been strong aftershocks in southeastern Afghanistan days after a powerful earthquake, which the Taliban say killed more than 1,400 people. The latest earthquake was felt in the same parts of Kunar province that were hit on Sunday. Yogatan Lamai is in Kabul.
It happened at around 5 o'clock local time this evening. We have spoken to people in Jalalabad, which is the capital of the Nangarhar province, as well as people in Kunar. And it was, people told us that they did experience shaking for a few seconds. We've asked the Taliban government about what the impact has been. They have said that some homes that were already destroyed have fully collapsed, but they are still gathering information about whether there were further injuries or death from the earthquake this evening.
A US judge has ruled that Google will not have to sell its popular web browser Chrome as part of an antitrust case that has been the subject of a 5-year legal battle with the US government. But the judge also ruled that Google must share data with its competitors to allow more open competition in online searches. A judge in San Francisco has ruled Donald Trump breached federal laws by deploying National Guard troops in Los Angeles during protest against immigration raids. The White House responded by saying it had saved LA. Speaking at the White House, President Trump confirmed that he'd also put troops to Chicago.
Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. Parts of Los Angeles are terrible. It's so badly run. But if I didn't send the National Guard into Los Angeles, I would be making an announcement today. By the way, the Olympics is not coming to Los Angeles.
Donald Trump has said that U.S. forces attacked a boat carrying drugs to the United States, killing 11 narco-terrorists from a gang he alleged was controlled by Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. President Trump said on his social media platform, Truth Social, that the kinetic strike happened on Tuesday while the traffickers from the Tren de Aragua gang were in international waters. Local residents in a remote area of Sudan are reportedly using their hands to dig through the debris, looking for survivors following a devastating landslide in the Darfur region. Local sources say between 300 and 1,000 people may have died on Sunday night. Anne Soy is following developments from Nairobi.
The UN agency in charge of humanitarian affairs in Sudan, however, says that it may take a while to get to this remote village. And some of the things being considered are even using donkeys to try and get there because the roads are impassable, it is raining, and it's just logistically difficult to get help to the people that need it. They would also need access to be granted by the warring sides in Sudan, that is the army and its rival, the Rapid Support Forces.
World News from the BBC. The suicide bomber has killed at least 11 people at a political gathering in the Pakistani province of Baluchistan. It happened at a stadium in Quetta, where hundreds of members of the Baluchistan National Party were wrapping up an event. At least 18 people were wounded in the attack. A court in Bolivia has sentenced 2 elderly Jesuit priests to a year in prison each for covering up decades of child sexual abuse by a colleague. Prosecutors argued that the 2 senior priests were aware of the allegations against Alfonso Pedrajas but failed to report them to the police. Our Global Affairs reporter, Sebastian Usher, has the details.
This is the first successful criminal prosecution in Bolivia against high-ranking members of the Catholic Jesuit order for concealing child sex abuse. A spokesperson for sex abuse survivors in Bolivia has hailed the ruling as setting a historic precedent. The case came to light through the diary kept by the Spanish Jesuit priest Alfonso Pedrajas, which was found several years after his death. In it, he detailed his abuse of at least 85 children under his care in Bolivia.
The leading artificial intelligence company, OpenAI, has announced it'll introduce parental controls on its chatbot, ChatGPT. It's after an American couple sued the company, claiming that the system pushed their son to take his own life. In their lawsuit, Maria and Matthew Rain say the chatbot provided their 16-year-old son with detailed suicide methods. The songwriter and performer Sting is being sued at the High Court in London by his former bandmates and the police. Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland believe they're owed about $2 million in lost royalties. They say they were underpaid for their contributions to hits like Roxanne and Every Breath You Take. Sting's lawyers say the claims are illegitimate. BBC World News.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook under the key search words Straight Talk Radio Show. I'm your host, Austin Harris. My colleague and co-host, Ellio Solomon, remains on leave. But as we are about to hear, though he is not present in studios, his presence is still very much active as we move into our primary topic for the evening here at 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. But first, the phone lines are open and will be open all the way until 6:30 as we have no guests planned for today. The number in studios is 745-2626. If you want to lend your voice to our conversation or topics of discussion, maybe you want to ask a question, maybe you want to make a statement, whatever the case may be, 745-2626 is the number in studios. As always, if talking isn't your thing, you can WhatsApp us at 928-2562. You can send us a traditional WhatsApp text message, or, of course, you can get creative and share a WhatsApp audio note. WhatsApp aside, you can also SMS that same number, 928-2562, in the form of a traditional text message. So I woke up this morning to a video that admittedly was shared with me by a member of our listening audience. And after viewing it, to say that I was annoyed would be putting it mildly. I was fit to be tied is probably the most gentle way in which I could say it. I don't think Offreg would be too pleased if I told you how I really felt about it. But the video, which very much has been in the public domain all day, and whilst I don't know this for a fact, I suspect other morning talk shows in particular have likely tackled the issue, and so will I, because really it relates to Caymanians arguably being shown the door, and certainly not the welcome mat, in their own country when they attempted to do what many Caymanians like to do, whether it be during the summer or the winter months in general, staycation. And that means simply supporting some of the local hotels with their patronage, staying there as guests and enjoying a little bit of beach, sun, and fun. And why not? We live here, and far too often we perhaps let the beauty of this island pass us by because, again, we see it 365 days a year. It kind of loses its special qualities unless we force ourselves. And I'm delighted to know that many Caymanians continue to support the hotel establishments. Arguably, they support these establishments in the low season when they would not normally be doing business anyway. And therefore, to hear the remarks that were shared in the video, which, of course, you won't see, but hopefully you will hear, you will see that, at least two ladies, which I presume are Caymanian, they sound like they are Caymanian, were visiting a property on 7 Mile Beach. The name, again, is in the public domain, so I'm not going to get in any trouble by stating it again. They were referring to a property called the Palm Heights Hotel, where they were unceremoniously asked to vacate the property. So without putting too many words in your mouth, let's just go to the video. And again, you'll be hearing the audio portion of it. But the actual video itself has been all over social media here in the Cayman Islands. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, Instagram in particular, but I suspect it's also on TikTok as well, it's done the rounds. But here's what the two ladies have to say about their unfortunate experience. Come now.
We were just filming inside the. They have the cutest room. We're at the cutest room at this hotel. We're at a hotel, a well-known hotel in the Cayman Islands, Palm Heights, and we just got run out. We just got run out of the room because they're saying that they don't allow filming in this room, which is okay, and any of the other rooms. And I'm like, okay. And so we come out, we stop filming, we come out, and we come to the pool. And then somebody else, one of the other, I guess, servers come over and they ask us, did you pay for your drinks? Because we order drinks at the bar, and we told them we're staying here. Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, so you don't have to pay, just charge it to the room. Yeah. They come over and they're like, did you pay for your drinks? They're like, but we told you to put it to the room. They're like, well, we couldn't find your room. Well, we told them the room number. And they were like, okay, well, do you have the last name? I'm like, this is the last name on the room. Okay. Because we looked and we couldn't find it. I'm like, what room number did you look up? I gotta be honest with you. I think that person was dyslexic that we told, because we certainly said clearly the number, but he switched the numbers around, and for some reason when they looked, they got the wrong room. Yeah. So again, simply their fault, but here he comes trying to establish that we gave them the wrong room, we're not staying here, and then we had to clarify.
And so now he's saying, no, if you're staying at the hotel, it's okay if you're filming in the room and you can go in the room.
Yeah.
They just don't allow locals after 5 o'clock to be here, and they don't allow locals to be filming in any of the places. But if you're staying here, you can film anywhere. But I'm like, but I'm staying here.
Yeah.
But you did not ask me if I was staying here. You just came in and told me to get out and stop filming. You're not allowed to film anywhere, in any of these rooms, and anywhere.
Yeah.
You didn't ask? You didn't ask if I'm staying here?
Yeah, the maitre d' definitely ran us out of this lounge area. We were just like hanging out, sort of like,
So Cayman has changed.
Cayman has changed, and it's sad.
Don't be a Caymanian and come to this hotel,
there are other
because they're gonna
Caribbean
run
countries. Yeah, there are other Caribbean countries that are really, they really pride themselves with that exclusivity. But Cayman was always like nice and open. Whether you're local or you're visiting, you had access to the properties. Now it's like if you're not staying at the property, you can't even use the property, meaning the restaurant or the lounge area. That's something.
They say you can go to the restaurant.
You can go to Tilly's.
If you're local, you can go to the restaurant, but you can't go nowhere else.
Nowhere else.
And so they figured that we were not staying here, and that we had needed not to be.
Based on looks. Because we look local, so it was like, well, you're not allowed to be in here, when technically we are allowed to be in here because we're actually staying at the hotel. So I don't even know what do you gather from that? I mean, I'm thinking it is so archaic because, local people have a lot of money, which means when you have a lot of money, you can pay for these hotels.
Locals stay here all the time.
Locals stay here all the time. It's crazy.
I mean, I don't live here, and I like coming to this hotel, but now I'm like...
How many times have I had staycations at the Kimpton, at the Reds? Here, the point is that people have money to spend, and they stay at hotels. Don't just assume because we look like we're local that we're not staying here. Yeah. It's very strange. It's a very strange thing. Yeah, super strange. I don't know if it's something to look into, but it's just a very strange encounter that just happened. It's never happened before, though.
Yeah,
and we love this place so much.
I don't get it.
We love this place so much. It's so sad.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Palm Heights, do better.
Very clearly, do better. If you know better, do better, the old saying goes. Well, obviously, the ladies themselves expanding, at least one of them suggesting that they were Caymanian but didn't live here anymore. I'm assuming they both look relatively young, so they could be college students. They could be down on summer vacation. The other, again, I'm not going to, run the stretch to say who's older and who's younger, but one certainly speaks with the more American accent, but that doesn't mean anything. Some people listen to me talk and they say, but where are you from, Austin? You don't sound Caymanian at all. Well, the reality is most Caymanians pride ourselves in being chameleons. You can drop a Caymanian in the middle of the desert and you'd swear to Christ, we live there. We don't sound like everyone else, but we do pick up, accents and demeanors, and we fit right in, which would make us great spies if we could only hold the secret. But I digress. The sentiment that a property does not welcome Caymanians really annoys me. It gets under my skin. And whether these ladies are Caymanian or not, I'm going to assume they're Caymanians. And whilst I don't know them personally, I don't know them from Adam, as we would say, but any discriminatory action that impacts Caymanians, who in this instance are paying guests of this establishment, and it is the low season for a lot of establishments, just simply being asked or told to vacate the premises because they look Caymanian, I think is an absolute disgrace. And it is my hope that our country's parliamentarians have been paying attention to social media on this day. I'm sure there are at least one or two talk shows who seem to have the ear of this National Coalition for Caymanian Government. So I suspect if they talked about it either this morning or likewise possibly even right now as we speak, that the government is listening. But whether it be, time to hand out some punishment, I think the government certainly has an ample opportunity to do so. particularly when, of course, the Premier himself has stood up and said, listen, we want to transition Caymanians working in cruise to stay over, thereby suggesting the hotels are a prime breeding ground for jobs. Again, we have a hospitality job fair kicking off next week at the Grand Cayman Marriott. I don't believe this hotel is participating. And I frankly don't think that anyone would want to work there after hearing this. I'm not going to suggest that there be a boycott or, maybe a demonstration, but, I'm not opposed to it happening because the simple fact of the matter is Caymanians, we lie down a lot. We take a lot of nonsense. We let people just get away with fundamental murder. They come to our country, they get rich in our country, and then they have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to say, you look Caymanian, so you can't be here. Who are you? Who do you think you are? Where do you think you are? Imagine if they tried this in Jamaica and Barbados and other places. Fire a bun. But we won't incite violence. But I'm just saying, we are far too timid, and we take nonsense like this far too often. And I truly do hope that that our politicians take this seriously. They consider it. They engage in correspondence, communication with the hotel in question. And again, weed out some punishment, make an example of, because we certainly don't want this trend to catch on. Now, arguably, I say that tongue-in-cheek because I've known for some time that despite the glimmering generalities, the glimmering what I call the storefront marketing approach that says we welcome locals, we love locals, we want to hire locals, but when they do hire locals, it's never forward-facing. It's always in housekeeping or back at a bus, and we take it. Our politicians take it. Every time a new hotel opens, they promise hundreds of jobs for Caymanians, but they are never hired, and we continue to take it. We give away concessions, millions of dollars that could go into public infrastructure projects, schools, hospitals, you name it. And what are we getting in return? Well, my colleague, Ellio Solomon, who, again, is on leave from the program, but he certainly is not inactive as it relates to issues like this. And again, I think it's rather fortuitous because I believe he penned an editorial before he even saw this video, which I only received last night. As a matter of fact, I shared with him first thing this morning. And, of course, he had already written an editorial and published it on our webpage, www.straighttalk.ky. And it's entitled, Stay Over Tourism, Who Actually Benefits? And for those of you who are driving right now and perhaps may not have already added our webpage to your list of favorites, I'm going to read this editorial. And again, this is an editorial written from the desk, if you will, of my colleague and fellow co-host, Ellio Solomon. Stay Over Tourism, Who Actually Benefits? At first glance, the Cayman Islands stay over tourism model may appear to be a glowing success. By any conventional economic measure, the industry brings in foreign investment, boosts government revenues, and keeps the islands bustling with international activity. In fact, for the casual observer or visiting economist, it may seem that Cayman is reaping great rewards from a model that has brought hotels, restaurants, and high-end retail experiences to our shores. Excuse me. But this surface-level success masks a deeper, more uncomfortable truth, that there is an ever-growing disconnect between the health of the economy and the well-being of the average Caymanian. In my view, we need to ask whether this model truly serves our people or whether it serves those who come here to profit from the very land and labor that Caymanians continue to subsidize. A system geared towards foreign interests. Let us examine the process. So a foreign investor, most often from the U.S. or Europe, comes to the Cayman Islands and receives duty concessions from the government to build a luxury hotel. That means that before the first stone is laid, The country is already giving up millions in import duties, revenue that could have otherwise been used to fund schools, health care, and other needed public services. Next comes the construction phase. And who builds these hotels? In an overwhelming majority of cases, it is foreign labor, primarily from Jamaica and other regional neighbors. Caymanians are barely present on these work sites. When construction is complete, the pattern continues. The hotel begins operations, and once again, the staff is made up largely of foreign nationals, including Nepalese, Filipinos, Canadians, Jamaicans, etc., while Caymanians remain in large part on the sidelines. The revenue generated from these hotels is not staying in the country either. A significant portion flows right back out to the foreign owners and the hotel franchises abroad. Now, this is whether it's the Hyatt, the Marriott, the Ritz, or any other brand, the profits largely bypass the Cayman Islands. Inflated real estate, strained infrastructure. In parallel, these foreign hotel owners and high net worth visitors often purchase luxury condos or second homes. This, of course, drives up the cost of real estate island-wide. And who benefits from those sales? Once again, primarily foreign-owned real estate firms, not Caymanian brokers. This contributes to the pricing out of Caymanians from their own housing market. The rise in stayover tourism has also altered the visual and cultural fabric of our islands. As many locals and visitors alike continue to state, we look less like a distinct Caribbean nation and more like an extension of South Florida, with concrete, glass, and franchise names replacing traditional Caymanian aesthetics and values. And with every new hotel or high-density developed, there is increased strain on our infrastructure, things like roads, electricity, water supply, and sewage. Sewage management has become a major concern as the systems in place must now handle exponentially more waste, putting pressure on environmental and public health standards. Cayman Airways cannot also be left out of this equation. It is often heavily subsidized by the government to accommodate and facilitate increased tourism traffic. That means that taxpayers, Caymanians, are again footing the bill to support a model that they don't substantially benefit from. So who's competing with Caymanians? Meanwhile, the very workers who construct and operate these hotels also need housing, driving up the demand for apartments and placing further pressure on Caymanian families. The influx of foreign labor, though essential to hotel operations, contributes to the rise in rental prices. Caymanians, especially younger generations trying to become independent, are struggling to afford decent living spaces. To put the sheer volume of tourism into perspective, let's consider the math. With roughly 500,000 stayover visitors annually, and assuming each stays on island for an average of 5 to 7 nights, we are effectively adding an extra 9,589 people to the Cayman Islands population. That is a massive population increase, equivalent to more than 14% of our resident population, and it brings with it added stress to every aspect of life on these islands. And all of this must be maintained. The government does generate revenue from the 13% tourism accommodation tax, which brings in somewhere between $50 to $60 million annually. But consider the costs. The Department of Tourism itself operates on a yearly budget of about $13 million, and at one point just recently spent an additional $26 million on marketing alone. Then there's the cost of road maintenance, utility upgrades, police and fire services, airport improvements, and much, much more. Add in the subsidies to places like Cayman Airways, and it quickly becomes clear. This model might be profitable for some, but it is extremely costly for the country as a whole. Where is the cultural benefit? Even on the cultural front, the benefits to Caymanians are questionable. Visitors who stay in hotels often explore the island independently or remain within hotel facilities. This is not meaningful cultural exchange. It is passive assimilation. Local attractions like the Turtle Center depend heavily on cruise tourism, around 60% of their revenue, while stayover visitors are far likely to engage in culturally curated experiences or visit these sites. A new model, Caymanians must be central. And I am running out of time, but certainly I think this last paragraph or last section of the editorial seems to run in line with the efforts of the Honorable Deputy Premier Gary Ruddy. And again, I think the message, which, by the way, in this editorial are all facts. There are no opinions that I can see anywhere here, but it does lay it out in succinct, summarical form and does cause you, the listening audience, to think about it. But we do have to pause and take a short commercial break at 28 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. But when we come back, I will continue to read the editorial. And listen, I encourage some feedback because in this instance, we're fighting for you, K-Man. Are you with us or are you on the sidelines?
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
At Polar Bear Air Conditioning, we believe in helping you to avoid costly mistakes and replacements. That's why we offer a quarterly maintenance program at a discounted price. You'll receive a 10% discount on all repairs, accessories, and services. Priority front-of-the-line customer status, reminders of your service, and no overtime rate for after-hours calls. Why not save money and avoid hassle with Polar Bear Air Conditioning? Need service now? Book our AC special for just $99. Book the next available technician at polarbear.ky. That's polarbear.ky.
At Priced Right, spending less on everyday products is easy.
Spend less on office supplies, tools, and automotive products.
Spend less on groceries, fresh produce, and meat.
Spend less on electronics, TVs, and speakers.
Spend less on home furnishings, beauty products, and apparel.
At Priced Right, we believe you can live better for less.
To start saving, visit us at the Airport Center in Georgetown or at Republix Plaza in West Bay.
For more info, visit pricedright.ky. Live better for less at Priced Right.
Drinking water is vital to our health. At Cayman Water, we use reverse osmosis desalination to ensure safe drinking water. A semi-permeable membrane allows fresh water to pass through, blocking out contaminants. Then, we finish with a post-treatment process and conduct frequent extensive testing to ensure that you get healthy drinking water with an average pH of 7. Not only is water out of your tap safe to drink, it's approximately 400 times less expensive than bottled water. Help to reduce plastics and save our planet. Cayman Water cares. Learn more at caymanwater.com.
Cayman, Units is here, the island's newest move-in and storage solution. Our robot delivery system allows you to put your unit almost anywhere while providing level loading, uploading, and minimizing shifting. What's even better, no time constraints. Pack at your own pace for moving or store as long as you need. Short-term or long-term, at the home or on the job site. Units, fast, safe, and secure. Check us out at units.ky and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Looking for TVs, electronics, sound systems, speakers, gaming consoles, games, and smart home gadgets? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for housewares, small appliances, fans, mini fridges, and cooling? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for baby supplies, toys and games, pet supplies, cleaning supplies, and auto supplies? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for quality produce, grass-fed meats, and groceries? You guessed it. Shop Cost You Less.
Cost You Less is your destination for everything you need on island. Cost You Less. Everyday low prices on items that matter to you.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1. Powered by Health Services Authority. Committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook under the key search word Straight Talk Radio Show. I'm your host, Austin Harris. My co-host and colleague Ellio Solomon is on leave, but his presence is still being felt in studios, very much through an editorial penned by my colleague, which during the break I discovered actually was written on July 13th. So many days before this video appeared on social media, and arguably many weeks before the Honorable Deputy Premier started to make his comments about returning tourism to Caymanians. But one thing I will say to that is that whether the Honorable Minister, Deputy Premier, read this editorial and then framed his position statement, well, I think that's a good thing if that's the case. I mean, there is no patent on a good idea. And if this editorial, which again is loaded with evidence-based fact, there are no personal opinions being lamented in this article, but in many cases it seeks to summarize in eloquent, concise fashion some of the water cooler discussions that Caymanians have been having arguably for years, but also supported by evidence when we look again at population growth, population impact, concessions given, obviously revenue lost, and the question of who are we developing Cayman for. So we will just wrap up. The editorial is almost over. It says, a new model. Caymanians must be central. It says it's time to ask serious questions about the long-term sustainability of this model. The financial leakages. Jamaican workers alone reportedly remit $175 million annually, with Filipinos sending over $40 million. Now, those numbers are staggering, and I want to let that marinate for a minute when you think about numbers such as $175 million earned in wages here in the Cayman Islands and $40 million earned in wages here in the Cayman Islands that don't stay in the Cayman Islands. They go back to build somebody else's country. That is money earned here but spent abroad. And Caymanians are left with the growing cost of living and shrinking access to opportunities. When minimum wage is increased, starting in January 2026, we can expect the money leaving Cayman to only increase. And the increase for Caymanians will be the cost of their helpers and the higher prices everywhere they do their shopping. We need a national study, honest, transparent, and led by Caymanians, to determine whether this model truly benefits us. But more than that, we need action. Every effort must be made to ensure Caymanians are at the center of the tourism industry, not just workers, but as owners, managers, and stakeholders. That means Caymanians should be running the security firms that protect our hotels, operating the rental car fleets, managing the hotels, not just cleaning the rooms, supplying the food and produce that ends up on the plates, owning the tour companies, the gift shops, and the art studios, and the list goes on. Let us not merely host the tourism industry, let us own it. Because until Caymanians are truly participating in every facet of this economy, we will continue to foot the bill for someone else's profits. Many of our leaders, foreigners, and even some of our own people will make a million excuses why we can't get Caymanians to participate. But it really just boils down to one reason for keeping them out. They're Caymanian. Written and published, as I mentioned, on the 13th of July by Ellio A. Solomon. And again, if you enjoyed that editorial, which begins with the title, Stay Over Tourism, Who Actually Benefits, I encourage you to check it out on our website, www.straighttalk.ky. And there, of course, you can gain access to not only our full archive since we've been on the air on February 10th. So if you missed any one of our shows, any part or parts of them, you can find them all on the webpage. But there are also a number of editorials where very clearly my good colleague, Ellio Solomon, has been busy writing. Some other editorials include new penalties for phone theft and why it matters, and social media, the new Coliseum. All of them insightful reads, all of them thought-provoking reads, all of them littered with evidence-based fact. You don't have to take our word for it. You can look it up online. You can find it in a variety of forums. And the only question you have to ask is, how long are we going to continue to accept it? How long are we going to continue to accept the short end of the stick? How long are we going to accept basically feeding off the scraps that fall from the table when, in fact, we should be sitting at that table? Yes, the country has benefited from foreign direct investment. But if you look around the country more and more every day, not only are we losing our national identity, as the editorial states, we're looking more and more like South Florida than we look like a Caribbean island. And again, to many locals, that means first world versus third world, and they like that. Many of our locals like living high on the hog and feeling special. But again, it is just that enticement that is, meant to seduce you. And when you start realizing who really has the power, who really has the money, who really is gaining from it, and should it come as a surprise, therefore, when you look at the development lobby and the concessions that are given, that we are facing a deficit at the end of 2025 and possibly into 2026. Again, I think the editorial seeks to answer the question, who are we really developing for? And is the current model sustainable? Is the current model meant to benefit Caymanians? Or is it simply meant to maintain the status quo, keep the money in the hands largely of foreign nationals, not just the owners of mega properties, but in many cases, those persons that, occupy the dominant jobs in the workforce. And what are they doing with that money? Well, they're sending that money back home to build their own country, to build their own nest egg. But at the same token, trying to find every possible reason and excuse to milk every single dollar out of this country, so much so that the next generation of Caymanians are finding it impossible to survive, impossible to own a piece of the rock, impossible to find, career placement, let alone job placement. And again, we have to have job fairs that encourage Caymanians to pull up their pants and get serious. Whilst there certainly is room for that advice, and I think it is good advice, arguably, again, I worry that this is just more political fervor, more political, sleight of hand. There have been too many election cycles where we seem content to simply support and build up the status quo, no real intention to change anything. And again, the National Coalition for Caymanian Government, they're the latest in a long line of politicians who, frankly, have disappointed us. They are saying a lot of the right things, and they are gaining a lot of support for them. But as my colleague oftentimes states, it seems like nothing is going to happen until 2026. And even then, the question of how meaningful it will be, obviously, will be lessened by, of course, the government's ability to pay for any new project. And again, that is because we're facing deficit both in 2025 and 2026. And who's to blame for that? Again, the previous administration, which really, again, as we look at the current landscape, nothing really changed at the last election. We reshuffled the chairs. We got a government made up of persons that kicked out the former premier, and that same former premier is working with the current government. I mean, really, the definition of insanity when you think about it. But hey, we give them the benefit of the doubt. We hope that they will come together, because the reality is, Caymanians in particular, we are all in the same boat. And whether this boat moves briskly and swiftly across the waters, or it sinks slowly and miserably, we will either strive or die with it. So we have to support our government. And it is with that in mind that we continue to encourage our government representatives, our ministers, our backbench MPs, come on Straight Talk. It won't be all wine and roses. We'll certainly give you an opportunity to lay out your platform, give you an opportunity to express your views, your goals, and your ambitions, but it won't be a cakewalk. You're going to have to answer difficult questions like the one we're facing. And again, whether it is Minister Ruddy building his platform on Ellio Solomon's editorials or the other way around, again, there is no patent on a good idea. It is certainly heading us in the right direction. I support Minister Ruddy's position of returning tourism to Caymanians, because that's how it started. We started this tourism thing when the island was, as we say, the island that time forgot, when we were little bitty. Started with a little place there on South Church Street called Sunset House, which was then and arguably still is the only fully owned, Caymanian-owned hotel. For a while there, the Holiday Inn was a Caymanian, fully owned, traditional Caymanian-owned hotel, but I think that since has changed hands. But more importantly, forget who owned it, who worked in there. What faces did you see? And what we hear repeatedly from our own visitors is, where are the Caymanians? We don't see them in the hotels. We don't see them in the restaurants that we eat at. We don't see them around the pool or the beach side. We don't see them anywhere in the Cayman Islands. And this is supposed to be the Caribbean, a place named after the very Caymanians that call it home. Where are they? It's a legitimate question. And again, I want to thank my colleague for putting pen to paper. Again, the phone lines, they say the silence is deafening. Listen, I can do this all day. I can sit in a room and talk to myself all day long. I can talk about the issues. I would love to talk to the government, but I don't need them here to criticize them. And frankly, to the listening audience, to the Caymanians I speak to specifically, are we going to continue to be satisfied with mediocrity? Are we going to continue to be satisfied with playing second fiddle? Are we going to continue to be relegated to the thatch huts when our masters, the foreign direct investor, lives in the concrete mansions and benefits from life in the Cayman Islands that we once did? Or are we going to share in that prosperity? I don't know is the answer to that question. Can't do it alone. I can tell you half the time that the voters don't know what they want, and the rest of the time they can't get together on what they want. So arguably, we are getting pretty much what we deserve in many cases, what we ask for, as the old sayings goes. You get what you vote for. But until we start taking ownership on these issues, and again, amongst those issues, the National Development Plan, we still haven't managed to get a plan past the finish line. We can't get agreement from parliamentarians. We can't get agreement from the very public domain in which this development plan is meant to support. Yet we hear it all of the time. Who are we developing for? What are all these monstrosities going up? Why can't I see the ocean or feel an ocean breeze as I drive the coastal road of anywhere in the Cayman Islands? Well, again, if we don't have a plan, well, why should we be surprised that we continue to operate from the hip? And again, maybe $50 or $60 million in revenue is good. Maybe the hundreds of millions of dollars we give away in concessions for the price of import duties, balancing that out is good. I don't know. You know, the increase on the population, the increase on the infrastructure, the increase on sewage, the increase in public schools, the increase on health. Again, who's paying for that? You and I are. That's who's paying for it. Who's leading us? I don't know. In many cases, our elected are mere mirror images of those who elect them. And I will just say this, and I will end it here. It was a criticism that I offered up during the last election, albeit privately, but I now offer it up publicly. What does a rich man want with politics? Clearly, he's not there for the money. What is he there for? Power, influence. He's not there to change the status quo, because arguably the status quo is what made him rich in the first place. So will the current National Coalition for Caymanian Government prove me wrong? God, I hope so. I really, really, really hope so. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not overly ecstatic or filled with, how should we say, belief and motivation that it's going to be anything different. I've said it before, I'll say it again. All we've done is reshuffled the deck chairs on the Titanic. And what happened to the Titanic? Well, it sank nonetheless. I got a comment coming from the listening audience. What does it say? Whole new meaning to the term Cayman kind is what one writer says. And absolutely. I mean, really, our kindness is what is going to kill us. Our kindness is what is going to continue to allow us to be steamrolled, to be walked over. Our kindness is really going to lead us down the path of destruction. Another person writes, excellent discussion, Austin. We can only hope the people of these islands will wake up before it's too late. Well, I appreciate those kind remarks. But again, when I think of the phone lines, and I know people are listening. I mean, I see the analytics, particularly on social media. We can't measure who's listening on the radio dial. We never could, but arguably no radio station in the world can measure who's listening on the radio dial. But thanks to social media, thanks to algorithms and other, improvements in technology, we can tell who's tuned in, who's listening to what subjects, how long they're staying and what areas they're focusing on. We have those numbers. But when it counts, like moments like this, when we're having an honest come to Jesus conversation, where are those Caymanians? Crickets. Can't find them anywhere. But maybe they'll put their support in their politicians. Maybe they're waiting for the government to bang their drum in Parliament. Maybe they're just waiting for once every 4 years to get all dressed up in your favorite team colors and make noise and crowds. And again, continue to be satisfied with mediocrity. But whether it is two ladies who look Caymanian being shown the door, get out, we don't want you, we don't want Caymanians here. Oh, you're staying here. You would think that would cause the hotel to sort of reshuffle their position, but clearly from the audio that we heard, just after 5 o'clock, that didn't change that position. So what does that say? Is Palm Heights alone in this attitude? Or do we see this attitude spread more and more across the Cayman Islands? We just need to open our eyes and ears and recognize it for what it is. Again, 745-2626 is the number. Caymanians, get involved, or you will continue to be steamrolled and then, don't have the nerve to act surprised when it happens. A writer to the program says, if it looks like a rich Caymanian who is now wanting more power, chances are it is a rich Caymanian. Well, again, is what I say, what does a rich man want to do with politics? Surely he's not interested in changing the status quo. And we see this. We see this from DJT, Ross Perot. Though I liked Ross Perot, he said all the right things, but America didn't elect him. Again, American voters not much different from Caymanian voters, really, which is why I say they really don't know what they want until they get it. And when they get it, they go, oh, no, this is not what we bargained for. Well, let's try again in another 4 years. Well, newsflash. Politicians listen to what you say on the airways. They listen to you when you lobby and when you bang the drum. And what better avenue to participate and let our leaders understand how you're feeling than taking advantage of public talk shows like the one that Straight Talk brings you 5 days a week. Anyway, Crickets 745-2626 is the number. The phone lines remain open, and Caymanians may choose to get involved, or Caymanians will, again, continue to get steamrolled, and why should I be worried about it? But I want to thank Ellio, wherever you are, my friend, for writing that article. It stings with truth. And again, only the biggest of pundits who are living, frankly, in a dream world would say, don't pay attention to that. Probably what they're saying is don't pay attention to that because, what does Ellio know? As one caller once said, you lost. What do you got to deliver? Yeah, well, you may be right. But I say to those who won, what are they delivering? But I suppose if you're getting a big fat check every month, if you get your light bill paid and a few other things paid, maybe that's all we want. Maybe that's all we need. Maybe our ambitions aren't as lofty as we say they should be or want to be. I don't know. But one thing for certain, we seem to be, by our own actions, satisfied with mediocrity. We don't want to be innovators. We don't want to be leaders. We certainly don't want to be owners. But we shall see. Again, reminding you, for those of you still looking for a job, that there will be a job fair next week, the 8th and 9th of September, hosted by one of those great hotels that once upon a time said they would hire Caymanians, the Grand Cayman Marriott Resort. The politicians, the Deputy Speaker and the Minister of Labor, Labor, Caymanian Employment and Immigration is the latest moniker, are encouraging Caymanians to tuck in their shirts, pull up their pants, and come ready to compete and looking for jobs. And they promise if you come serious, they will support and back you. And arguably, you'll get some of the premium jobs that are simply on hand for Caymanians to take advantage of. I say come and test that little notion and see whether or not it actually happens. You can wish in one hand and want in the next and see which one fills up first. Also, speaking of jobs, we have those in the financial services sector seemingly singing from the same government hymn book, CIBC Caribbean and its executives promising to deliver more inclusion through internship and employment opportunities for Caymanians through established partnerships with local providers, underscoring their dedication to empowering Caymanians and fostering meaningful career pathways, according to a press release put forward by CIBC. Again, the only way we can test whether this is real or just more of glittering generalities is to show up, and that's simply what I say to all things. All you got to do is go on the jobs online portal on at work.ky, and you see the number of jobs that are up for grabs. And the question is, who applies for them? If you aren't applying for them, then very clearly the country has to keep the economy going, so we continue to give permits. But we got to, step up. In one way, we need to step up and apply for the jobs that we think we can truly do, jobs that we have the skills for. And if we don't have the skill sets for the jobs, then the government has a raft of programs and cohorts that will get you ready. So again, I really don't know what it is that we are complaining about. Yesterday, we had an insightful and bloody enjoyable conversation with Dr. Livingston Smith from the University College of the Cayman Islands, the front runners for TVET, technical and vocational training in the Cayman Islands. And then this didn't just happen yesterday. They're celebrating 50 years this year, and they've been offering TVET training for at least 20 of those years. But are we taking advantage of it? Are we looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I want to do better? So go out and do better and get the jobs that are yours. Or complain, do nothing. curse the moon and the stars and say it's the foreigner who's to blame. But one thing is for certain, and I think certainly the Deputy Premier and the Minister of Caymanian Employment and Immigration nailed it. There are other persons competing for the jobs that should be Caymanians. And why are they getting it? Well, because Caymanians simply aren't competing for them in any meaningful way. So it's a wake-up call. It's an opportunity. But again, we wait and we see and go from there. A writer says, why is it, Austin, that we have heard all sorts of nonsense suggestions on immigration reform, but nothing on how the National Coalition for Caymanians plans to put Caymanians at the center of tourism? Well, they seem to be suggesting that that's what they want to do with this recent job fair at the Marriott. Again, seem to be and are doing oftentimes are two very different and distinct things. But I will say in their support, if we want to challenge the temerity of their statements, Caymanians, show up next week, Monday and Tuesday at the Grand Cayman Marriott. Get involved. Apply for some of these jobs in the hospitality sector. That includes you folks in the cruise tourism sector, because the government has all but said they intend to watch you go extinct like the dinosaurs. So you better get on the stay over train, but test their statements. We'll be back with more Straight Talk here on Bobo FM.
Bobo.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation. OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive winds.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News, hello, I'm Eileen McHugh. A US judge has ruled that Google will not have to sell its popular web browser Chrome as part of an antitrust case that has been the subject of a 5-year legal battle with the US government. But the judge also ruled that Google must share data with its competitors. Lily Jamali reports from San Francisco.
U.S. regulators had asked Judge Amit Mehta to force Google to spin off Chrome, the world's most popular online browser. The request came as part of the remedies phase of a landmark antitrust case against Google. Last year, the same judge found that Google operated an illegal monopoly in online search. In this ruling, Judge Mehta barred Google from paying to be the exclusive search engine on devices and browsers of companies such as Apple. The tech giant must also share search results with rivals who are considered to be, quote, qualified competitors in an effort to create a more level playing field in online search.
President Donald Trump says the US military has attacked a boat in international waters, allegedly carrying drugs, and killed 11 people he described as narco-terrorists from Venezuela. Mr. Trump said the gang was controlled by the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said the days of drugs gangs acting with impunity were over.
These particular drugs were probably headed to Trinidad or some other country in the Caribbean, at which point they just contribute to the instability these countries are facing. So the president's been very clear that he's going to use the full power of America and the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity. Those days are over.
The US House of Representatives committee says it has released more than 33,000 pages of files on the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A member of the Republican-led committee said it sought justice for the victims of the disgraced financier who took his own life in prison in 2019. Brazil's Supreme Court is deliberating its verdict on Jair Bolsonaro's trial, in which the former president is charged with plotting a coup to subvert the 2022 election. One judge said the former military officer wanted to install a dictatorship. Ione Wells reports from Brasilia.
Jair Bolsonaro is accused of masterminding a coup to cling to power, which included a plot to kill the now president Lula da Silva and a Supreme Court judge, Alexandre de Moraes. His defence is likely to focus on his belief that one of the key pieces of evidence, a plea bargain by his former aide and co-defendant, is not credible without further evidence. He also argues that the panel of Supreme Court judges, which includes Justice Moraes, is biased against him. On Monday, Brazil's top prosecutor said the evidence against him includes audio and testimonies confirming he proposed a coup in a meeting with military commanders. Mr. Bolsonaro has always denied the allegations.
BBC News. There have been strong aftershocks in southeastern Afghanistan days after a powerful earthquake, which the Taliban say killed more than 1,400 people. Survivors in remote villages in mountainous Kunar province are spending another night without shelter or assistance as landslides and blocked roads mean help is yet to reach them. Local residents in a remote area of Sudan are reportedly using their hands to dig through the debris looking for survivors following a devastating landslide in the Darfur region. The African Union is calling for a truce between Sudan's warring parties to allow aid to reach the victims. Local sources say between 300 and 1,000